Welcome to our presentation on the UFA. In today's lecture, we're going to take you through everything you need to know about filling out the UFA. The UFA serves to consolidate information on resources mobilized under the convention. What we're going to do in the next 5 minutes is walk you through the UFA and really show you how simple it is to fill out. The purpose of the UFA is for us to gather information on financial flows, and then we'll take this information and we'll give it back to you in infographics, diagrams, and charts, and give you a sense of what the donor commitments are, what the commitments are by sector, and more. Okay, let's get started. Let's take out our UFAs and start to fill in the data. You'll be happy to know that this year's UFA is very simplified. In fact, there's been a 70% reduction in required fields. We're hoping this will make it very easy for you to fill it out. You'll need 3 kinds of basic data. First, identification data, then data on the amount and type of funding, and finally, classification data. You can find more information about how to identify your project and where to insert the funding information in the reading materials that we're going to be supplying to you. But for this video, let's focus on the classifications. There's 4 kinds of main classifications: funding instrument, relevant activity codes, RIO markers, and strategic and operational objectives. Okay, let's start with types of funding. In this section of the UFA, we want you to select the funding instrument that was used to fund the activity. So you'll see a whole list of funding instruments over here. What if you don't know the meaning of one of these terms? Don't worry, you can check the glossary. If that doesn't work, then please make a help desk ticket and we'll get back to you in a very timely manner, in fact, within 2 days. You can select more than one funding instrument for each activity. Let's move on to the RIO markers. The RIO markers are indicators that were created by the 3 RIO conventions to facilitate reporting on the synergies between the conventions. So, on the screen you'll see these RIO markers, and each of these indicate the degree of relevance of a given activity in addressing the objectives of a RIO convention. If you're not familiar with these markers, take some time to get to know them. There are 2 important things you should note. The first is you'll notice the UNCCD is the only convention with a specific RIO marker, and that's number 3, action program related. The next is that in order to qualify for significant, principal, or AP related, the objective has to be explicitly promoted in the project documentation. Here's something you might not know about the RIO markers. An activity that facilitates mainstreaming can qualify for the principal score. When you're looking at the sheet, remember, you can only select 1 RIO marker for each activity. But each activity can be selected for more than one of the conventions. Great, now we're on the relevant activity codes. These indicate categories of measures that are put into place to combat desertification. You'll be very happy to know that we've simplified the list of relevant activity codes to just 25 this year. These 25 codes are clustered under 4 main areas: knowledge management, enabling activities, land degradation and drought, and restoration recovery. Now, you can assign multiple relevant activity codes to the same activity. Check the UNCCD glossary when in doubt about anything, and remember, you can always file a support ticket. The relevant activity codes are specific to the UNCCD, so it might help before starting to figure out how these map to your own internal country codes. The relevant activity codes can be quite generic, so it's probable that you'll find an easy mapping system to facilitate the process. Let's move on to the strategic and operational objectives. And this is the last classification in the UFA. You might remember from a previous lesson that the strategic and operational objectives of the UNCCD are part of the 10-year strategy, and they provide a guide for the UNCCD partners and stakeholders. This classification is very simple. You look at the strategic and operational objectives, and all you do is check off the ones that apply to your activity. You can select more than one strategic and operational objective, but of course, at least one has to be selected. Let's review. The 4 key classifications are financial instruments, RIO markers, relevant activity codes, and strategic and operational objectives. You can find all the information you need on the UNCCD reporting website. There's a reporting glossary, manual, and frequently asked questions. There's also a help desk where your ticket will be answered within 48 hours. Thank you for your time, and we're really looking forward to receiving your report.